Autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Today we are going to discuss about a division of the nervous system, that is autonomic nervous system, and its subparts, which are sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. Before going in details, first of all let us have a look at the classification of the nervous system. So here you can see that the nervous system is first classified into two types: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system contains two parts, brain along with spinal cord. And the peripheral nervous system is divided into autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. Then further, the brain has three parts: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. And the autonomic nervous system has two parts: sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So today we are going to study about this division of autonomic nervous system, which comprises of sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. First of all, let's have a look at the various types of nerves which are present there in the body. These are cranial nerves, central nerves, peripheral nerves and autonomic nerves. Cranial nerves are those nerves which go from your brain to your eyes, mouth, ears and other parts of your head. As the name suggests, cranial nerves, so these are the nerves which arises in the head and are supplied to the parts of the cranial cavity, of the organs located in the cranial cavity, like the eyes, ears, mouth and the other parts of the head. Then we have the central nerves. Central nerves are those nerves which are there in your brain and the spinal cord. So the central nerves are present along the brain and the spinal cord. Then you have the peripheral nerves. Peripheral nerves go from your spinal cord to the arms, hands, legs and feet. So the peripheral nerves are those nerves which arise from the spinal cord and they supply to the areas of the periphery. Periphery means the surroundings, which are arms, legs, feet and all these areas. Then the fourth type of nerve is autonomic nerves. They go from your spinal cord to the lungs, heart, stomach, intestine, bladder and sex organs. So these are the autonomic nerves which are supplied from the spinal cord to the organs. Organs like heart, lungs, stomach, intestine, bladder and sex organs. These are the organs on which we do not have any kind of voluntary control. So basically, autonomic nerves are those nerves which are controlling the involuntary functions of the body in the organs like heart, lungs and stomach. Now, let's start with the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system controls the muscles of internal organs like heart, stomach and intestines. I have already told you that it is controlling the involuntary functions. So like heart beating or the peristalsis movement or the movement in the intestine is not under our control. So all these functions are covered under the autonomic nervous system. Then it is constantly active and controls the involuntary functions. See, this autonomic nervous system is constantly active. We do not need to activate it again and again. As soon as the body demands it, the function gets activated and is controlling the involuntary functions. Then see this figure. Here the autonomic nerves are shown that go from the spinal cord to the lungs, heart, stomach, intestine, bladder and sex organs. As I have already told you that this is the region, this is the main region where all these organs are located, which are performing the involuntary functions. So the autonomic nerves are supplying the nerve impulses or are carrying the nerve impulses from these organs to the spinal cord and from the spinal cord to these organs. Now let's start about the study about the division of the autonomic nervous system. So this autonomic nervous system is basically classified into two types: sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. So today we are going to mainly discuss about these two systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic. First one is the sympathetic nervous system. In the sympathetic nervous system, you need to remember these two words, fight or flight. It prepares the body for the physical and the mental activity. It makes your heart beat faster and stronger and opens the airway and inhibits the digestion. So, when we are talking about the sympathetic nervous system is activated when the body is in the condition of the stress. So, whenever you are having stress, the sympathetic nervous system will be activated, and it will activate the function of fight or flight. You must have heard the example of facing a lion. When a lion comes in front of you, you have two options, either to fight with the lion or flight away from the situation. So you just need to remember these two words, and if you'll keep in mind these two words, then you'll easily be able to tell the symptoms or the changes in the body during the activation of sympathetic nervous system. So just remember, sympathetic and stress both start with S. So sympathetic this nervous system will get activated in the condition of stress. And what are the functions? Either fight or flight. Now we are coming on to the second system, that is the parasympathetic nervous system. So the two words that are related with the parasympathetic nervous system are rest and digest. As it was fight or flight in the sympathetic system, here we have to remember rest and digest. So the parasympathetic system is responsible for bodily functions when we are at rest, and it helps the body to relax. So as the parasympathetic system was being activated in the condition of stress, whereas this is the opposite case where the parasympathetic nervous system is activating in the condition of relax. So if you remember, if you relate the word stress with sympathetic, both S, so automatically the opposite you will be able to understand about the parasympathetic nervous system, that is rest and digest. These are the two words which are related with the parasympathetic nervous system. Now there is one thing to note, that we usually think that sympathetic and parasympathetic work against each other, work always opposite to each other, but this is not the same in every case. Many a times sympathetic and parasympathetic both collaborate with each other to perform the daily activities. Like at this present situation, it is a normal situation, neither we are in a stress nor we are resting. So in this condition both the systems are activated, parasympathetic and sympathetic. Just the difference is that when we are in the condition of stress, the sympathetic activation increases far more than parasympathetic nervous system. Now, for studying the sympathetic and parasympathetic system, the best way is to study by comparing the two systems. So here we are going to compare the two systems and see their functions one by one. So first of all, I'll be discussing about sympathetic, then I'll compare it with parasympathetic, because sympathetic is like easier to understand, or we can relate to it easily. When we are in the condition of stress, the body shows fight or flight response, and here in parasympathetic the body shows rest and digest response. Then the sympathetic system controls the body's response during the perceived threat. This I have already told you, that during a perceived threat or in a condition of danger or stress, the sympathetic nervous system controls the body, and parasympathetic controls when we are at rest. Then this is an important point to remember, that the origination of the sympathetic nerves. These nerves originate mainly in the thoracic and the lumbar region of the spinal cord. The sympathetic the nerves are not located throughout the spinal cord. They are only located in the thoracic and the lumbar region. Whereas the origination of the parasympathetic nerves takes place in sacral region of the spinal cord, medulla and cranial nerves, 3rd, 7th, 9th and 10th. So when we look at this differentiation, the nerves arising from the thoracic and the lumbar region are sympathetic nerves, and the nerves arising from the sacral region of the spinal cord, medulla and the cranial nerves 3, 7 and 10, these are the parasympathetic nerves. Sympathetic nerves, these nerves help of the neurons to transmit their impulses. So since the neurons are involved, that is why it is a faster system of conduction, whereas the ganglia are involved in the parasympathetic nervous system, that is why the conduction is slower than the sympathetic nerves. Now this is the diagram which I was talking about, the origination. See, the blue lines which you can see are showing the parasympathetic nerves and the red lines are showing the sympathetic nerves. So you can easily see here that all the sympathetic nerves are originating from thoracic and the lumbar region of the spinal cord and are supplying to the various internal organs of the body, whereas the parasympathetic nerves are arising from the cranial cavity, the medulla and the sacral region. At the last, the sacral region they are arising from and supplying to the various organs. So this is a difference in the origination of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nerves. Now coming on to the further differentiation. In the sympathetic nervous system, the body speeds up, tenses up and becomes more alert. As you see a lion, what is the response of your body? The body speeds up. You make yourself aware that you have to now either fight or flight, so you have to run or whatever. Then to save yourself from this situation, the body speeds up, tenses up and becomes more alert. The functions not critical for survival are stopped. So the basic functions which are not critical for survival, like the function of digestion or urination, all these functions are stopped. Whereas in the sympathetic nervous system, which gets activated at the time of rest, the counterbalances restores the body to the state of calm. After the sympathetic nervous system works or the condition of stress goes, then the parasympathetic nervous system comes into action and brings the body to the state of rest or calm. Then what are the changes on the circulatory system? When the sympathetic gets activated, the contraction rate increases and the heart rate increases. And whenever the parasympathetic system gets activated, the contraction and the heart rate decreases and the body comes to the condition of rest. Then the respiratory changes. During the sympathetic nervous system, the bronchial tubes dilate. When the bronchial tubes will dilate, they will allow more air to go into the lungs, which is very much required to tackle the situation of stress. And then in parasympathetic nervous system, the bronchial tubes constrict. Then on the musculoskeletal system, the muscles contract in the sympathetic nervous system because the person has to make himself ready for the action. Like when there is a lion in front of you, then you have to run. So for running, the muscles need to contract. So the sympathetic nervous system, in this system the muscles will contract, and in parasympathetic nervous system the muscles will relax. Then coming to the pupils. In the sympathetic system, the pupils constrict, and in the parasympathetic system the pupils dilate. Then the stomach movements. See, just now I told you that digestion is not a very critical function for survival, as there is circulation and respiration. So the digestion decreases and the stomach movements and secretions also decrease. Whereas in the parasympathetic system, these stomach movements and secretions increase. Then saliva production decreases, and in parasympathetic the saliva production increases. You can easily relate these two situations. In the sympathetic system, imagine yourself to be standing in front of the lion, and in the parasympathetic nervous system, imagine yourself to be sleeping or at rest. So when you will imagine these two situations, then automatically you will be getting these all points one by one. Then we come on to the adrenal glands. Adrenal glands, you all know, are located on the two kidneys. So they release adrenaline when the sympathetic system gets activated. Adrenaline is a hormone that is released by adrenal glands. So during the condition of stress, adrenaline and noradrenaline, these are known as emergency hormones or fight or flight hormones. These two are released when this system gets activated. Whereas in the parasympathetic system, there is no involvement of the adrenal gland. Then we come on to the conversion of glycogen to glucose for the muscle energy. This takes place in the sympathetic system. Why do we need muscle energy? Because the person has to act, has to save himself from the situation. So for that reason, the muscles need energy. And where will this energy come from? The stored glycogen will get converted into glucose for generating the muscle energy. Whereas when we are in rest, like in the parasympathetic nervous system, there is no need for any muscle energy because the person is resting. So there is no involvement of glycogen and glucose. Then last one, we are coming on to the urinary system. In the condition of stress, there is decrease in the urinary output. Imagine yourself to be running and a lion is chasing you. Will you ever get a thought of urinating? No, because there is a marked decrease in the urinary output. Whereas in the parasympathetic system, the urinary output also gets increased. So in the parasympathetic system, the blood supply to these areas like bladder, stomach, these all increases. Therefore, there is a decrease in the digestion, the stomach movements, the saliva secretion and the urinary output. So these were the basic differences in the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. For remembering it easily, just imagine yourself in the condition of sympathetic nervous system. You are having a lion in front of you. So what all changes will be there? When you see a lion, first of all, your heartbeat increases, the heart rate increases, the contraction of the heart increases, you can feel the palpitations. Then the respiration also increases, the bronchial tubes get dilate because you need more of oxygen to save yourself from the situation, to tackle with the stress. And then when a lion is chasing you, you never get a thought of urination, you never get a thought of hunger, you never feel like your saliva production is increasing. Rather, the secretions are decreased, the secretions of the mouth and the secretions of the throat. The throat gets dried whenever you are in a condition of stress. So these are the few differences between the sympathetic and parasympathetic. Then one of the main differences, you have to remember the origination of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves. Then sympathetic is a faster system because it is involving the neurons, and parasympathetic is a slower system. Then this was the diagram which we discussed, in which the origination is shown. Then the contraction, the respiration and the muscular system changes. Then the pupil changes, the stomach secretion, the adrenal glands involvement is there in the sympathetic system and not in the parasympathetic system. Now let's see how these systems are working. See, I already told you that sympathetic is a faster system because it is moving along short neurons. So first of all, how do these system works? Sympathetic works in the condition of stress. When there is a condition of stress, then the adrenal medulla is activated. Where is the adrenal medulla? In the adrenal gland. And this adrenal medulla releases the hormones in the bloodstream. Which hormones? There are two hormones, adrenaline and noradrenaline. These two are released into the bloodstream, and these hormones reach to the target organ through the bloodstream, and the muscles get activated or the function gets started. So this is the working pathway of the sympathetic nervous system. In the condition of stress, the adrenal medulla is activated, then the hormones are released in the bloodstream, ADR and NORAD, then hormones reach to the target organs and the muscles get activated. This is the functioning or the working of the sympathetic nervous system. Now in the next, and once the perceived danger is gone, the parasympathetic nervous system takes over to counterbalance the effects of the sympathetic nervous system responses. Imagine yourself running in a marathon, and after the marathon, when you rest, what are the changes? Your body starts to come at rest. So which system is bringing it to the rest? The parasympathetic system. So now there is a shift from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. Now let's see about the parasympathetic system next, that how does it work. See, there is the involvement of ganglion in the parasympathetic nervous system. The preganglionic fibers from the medulla or the spinal cord project ganglia close to the target organ. There are no neurons, these are not directly related to the directly connected to the organ. Rather, there are ganglia which are close to the target organ. Synapse is created. What is synapse? Synapse is a gap which is from the ganglia to the organ. Since they are not directly connected, there is a gap through which the impulses are transferring, and this gap is known as synapse. And once the synapse is created and the impulses are moved, we get the desired response. So that is why the parasympathetic is a slower system as compared to the sympathetic nervous system. So that was all about sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. For distinguishing between the two, if you ever get confused, just remember stress with sympathetic and relax with parasympathetic. Then the two words are fight or flight with sympathetic and rest or digest with parasympathetic. And you will be easily able to differentiate between the actions which they are showing on the various systems of the body. Thank you.